Looking to try your hand at servicing Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles, but don't know where to start? Look no further than this video where I show you insider tips from current and former techs. Learn what makes CDJR vehicles unique and what common faults these vehicles may have. And now we get to tips from a tech. This is one of my favorite sections because this is that I really wish I had known that before when I was working on one of those type of thing, right? So if you're working in just a general automotive shop and you don't necessarily see the same brand all the time, you want that information from the people who do work on that brand quite often, right? So if you talk to a Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram tech, and they'll tell you, hey, here's a common problem that you might have been chasing your tail for an hour or two, but here's what the actual issue is, and here's how to correct it, right? That sort of thing. And that's what I really like. That's kind of the premise of these classes. It's to get you that information. So we got plenty of that in the other manufacturers we do. We got another one here. So this example is going to be talking about cam sensors, specifically on the 3.6 Pentastar. There's a lot of cam sensor problems, a lot of cam sensor codes. Not necessarily the sensor itself has a problem. And that's where you might get caught up. Because if you think, oh, the sensor's got a problem, or you can even test the sensor and it's not going to look quite right, but it might not be the sensor that's actually causing the problem. Well, let me rephrase that. So the design of the sensor is inherent to the problem that we're going to talk about. So these sensors use what we call a magnetoresistive. It's a magnetoresistive sensor. And there's two sensors, intake and exhaust, on each head. And how that works is you're going to have your actual sensor here. It's got a little chip inside, and it's got a couple sensors in there, and it sees these magnet rotors. So these magnetic rotors are actually going to be on the end of the camshafts here. So you can see how I got, one there and one there. And then I have my sensor that goes in the middle, and it's actually intake and exhaust sensor combined into one. It reads both sides, and it reads those magnets going by. As the magnets go by, they generate a magnetic field inside the sensor. The sensor reads it, translates it into a electric signal that the computer reads, and then it knows what's going on. However, on these engines, there are also a lot of rocker problems and camshaft problems. So you can see how it's kind of worn out there, and that's kind of worn out. That's kind of worn out. So as it's wearing out, it doesn't have to be a massive failure. It's just wearing out. And then I get these little fine iron filings floating around in the oil. Where does the oil also go? Well, the oil also goes around the camshafts, in the cylinder heads, and so on. So what do you think those fine metal particles that are magnetic because they're made of iron or steel, where do you think they go? Well, they go and they attach to the magnets, and then they get embedded on the magnets. And then in that case, it ruins the magnetic field for the cam sensor, and it will give you cam sensor codes, cam sensor issues. And you could replace that cam sensor. And if you don't fix what the actual problem was, the metal filings on here, then you could have another failure pretty soon after you do that cam sensor. So I think that tip is worth its weight in gold. If you've never come across, or if you have come across that problem especially, and you didn't realize what it actually was, that's going to save you a ton of time next time. You just get the borescope out, or maybe pop the valve cover off or whatever, and see, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of metal floating around in here. We need to address that first before we address the cam sensor. Bit of a cam sensor problem too, but I would say more often than not, that's going to be your cause of a cam sensor issue. That's all the tips we have for CDJR for now that'll make working on these cars easier. As we close up this series on CDJR, catch the next OEM manufacturer live training where you can ask questions and get answers. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll get notified when every OEM training videos drop.